Breakin All The Rules from 2004 is the quintessential romantic comedy, but underneath all the confusion and humor, it's really about people giving relationship advice while barely understanding themselves and others around them.
What makes the film so funny is that almost every major relationship in the film is built on these kinds of misunderstandings.
I mean, that's really kind of what a good romantic comedy is, right? You get the romance with all of these crazy situations going on that would be unbelievable under any other circumstances. But the film explores like heartbreak and ego, emotional confusion, and the irony of giving relationship advice when you barely understand anything about the world and relationships yourself. And this is, I think, kind of like the way the world is operating right now today, too, because we have this big controversy going on about people who have their doctorates and people who don't. And is it a real doctorate and who should be given advice on relationships? And I feel like in the last few years, there has just been an explosion of relationship gurus. I mean, they have always existed on some level, reading books and all of this throughout the years and appearing on different talk shows. But like right now, at a period of time where you can have people turn on YouTube and record a video and then suddenly they become experts, and I put experts in air quotes. This movie from 2004 really reminds me a lot of how easy it can be to just stumble upon success in an area. So we have our, what I would like to call the like 90s, early 2000s Black cast, and it stars Jamie Foxx as Quincy Watson, Peter McNichol as Philip Gaskin, Morris Chestnut as Evan Fields, Gabrielle Union as Nikki Callis, Jennifer Esposito as Rita Monroe, Bianca Lawson as Helen Sharp, Jill Ritchie as Amy, and Danny Comden as Sam, and Heather Headley stars as herself in the film. The singer Heather Headley and actress. She is, well known on Broadway, etc. So let us get into the details of this movie.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. The executive producer of this video is Tracy M., who requested this film through Axiom Amnesia's Deep Dive On Demand program that we'll tell you more about later. So let us get into a quick summary of the film so we can talk about the deep parts. So we'll break this into Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 of the movie. So in Act 1, we have heartbreak turning into hustle. So we have Quincy, that's Jamie Foxx's character, and his world falls apart when his fiancée, Helen Sharp, who's played by Bianca Lawson, suddenly ends their engagement in front of everybody at their engagement party. And so he's devastated and humiliated. And so he pours his emotions into this deeply personal letter while he's simultaneously handling a workplace assignment from his boss, Philip, who asks him to research respectful ways to terminate employees. Now, I just have to stop there because, like, Philip is nuts. Philip is like, look, I realize that I'm gonna have to fire some people because we got some cutbacks, but I don't want anybody going, quote unquote, postal up in here and turning, coming in here and being mad. So we have to think of ways that I can let people go. And so to me, this was a funny scene in the film where you have Jamie Foxx's character, Quincy, saying, hey, why not get HR? And he was like, oh, I had to let him go. So now. And
then he was like, it's basically on you because I have the power to delegate.
Yeah. So you have to do what I said. And I was so sure that at the end of him, and when I first saw this, at the end of him getting rid of everybody else, he was going to be like, now fire yourself. Because I don't know, I feel like I saw that in a movie or in some things, where that happens. Go to the comments. What movie is that where that situation happens? A person goes and they fire everybody else. They're ordered to do that, and then they have to fire themselves last. I don't remember what movie that is, but it's happened. So basically, Quincy is writing, and his thoughts evolve into this romantic relationships book about how to end these relationships, right? And so it's this unexpected concept that resonates with the readers, and it transforms Quincy into like this best-selling author and relationship guru almost overnight. And so with this newfound success, Quincy begins advising his male friends on how to escape toxicity or unhealthy relationships, including helping Philip, that's, his boss or whatever, navigate his messy situation with his gold-digging girlfriend, Rita. Inspired by Quincy's book, his cousin, Evan, that's Morris Chestnut's character, also starts questioning whether his own relationship with his girlfriend, Nikki, is truly working. Nikki is the one played by Gabrielle Union. So the Act 1 has just set up everything, the problems, the solutions, this silly book and all of that. So then we get to Act 2, where we get this folly of errors, these confusion and lies and complicated relationships. So basically, Evan, that's Quincy's cousin, fears that Nikki is going to be planning to leave him. Evan asks Quincy to meet with his girlfriend and convince her that he is worth keeping. And so since Quincy's never seen Nikki before, Evan identifies her as this woman with long black hair. And so unbeknownst to him, Nikki had recently had her hair cut short. And then when Quincy meets Nikki at the bar, he doesn't recognize her as Nikki. And so he starts searching for the real Nikki. So he's talking to her like, yeah, I'm here, look for, and whatever, but he doesn't see her. Amused by the situation and aware of who Quincy is, Nikki introduces herself under this fake name, Mary. I just want to hop in here and have a moment of full transparency from us. We have really on our channels experienced a major difference in this platform and how our videos are being promoted, which obviously affects the bottom lines. So one of the things that we have moved toward, and you probably noticed it, is more direct viewer support, right? And so this is why executive producers, memberships, and the merch are ways that you can help us to sustain the channel. This is why you're seeing more commercials for this in our videos, why you're seeing more posts about it on our post tab. We are always grateful for every bit of support that makes continuing this work possible. But I just want to be fully transparent with you so that you understand why you're seeing more of this right now. And check the links in the description. And if you want to support, those are the ways you can do it. So you got all kind of just foolishness going on at this point in the movie. So at the same time, Rita discovers Philip intends to break up with her. So Rita, that's the gold digging one. And Philip is Quincy's boss. And so she's mad. And so she goes looking for Quincy. But when she goes to Quincy's house, who's at Quincy's house but his cousin, Evan? When Evan sees Rita, he's like, okay, she looked good or whatever. He pretends to be Quincy himself. So then this is another deception. So you got two people, Mary, aka Nikki, who is fooling Quincy, and then you have Quincy's cousin Evan, who is fooling Rita about their real identities. So then the deception is sparked after this affair happens between Evan and Rita. So Rita thinks that she's sleeping with Quincy, but she's actually sleeping with Quincy's cousin Evan because he didn't post, as him. So then later, Evan visits Nikki, intending to end their relationship, only to discover that she has already planned to leave him and has been seeing another man behind his back. So then the truth comes out in Act 3. So eventually Evan confesses to Quincy that, hey, look, I still love Nikki. I want to be with her, all of this stuff, right? And so Quincy's realizing like, okay, the woman he knows as Mary is actually Nikki. So it's not until toward the end that we find out that Quincy realizes that he done basically hooked up with his cousin's woman. And so then in the next scene, there is a surprise celebration for Quincy's best-selling book because they re-released it. And this is where everything just blows up. And so this is the scene that we want to take a close look at. So at the party, it is a surprise party. So at the party, you see everybody go, surprise! Surprise! And then Evan takes Quincy to a room where he reveals that Helen, his ex-girlfriend, is there.
Hello, Quincy.
Helen?
She showed up because she wants that old thing back. And so she's trying to be all seductive. Hey, I realized that everything I did wrong and blah, blah, blah. And I want you back, right?
I would do anything to make it right again between us.
And she's like, you can either kiss me or slap me. I don't care.
You can either kiss me or slap me. I don't care.
Okay, first of all, let me just say Bianca Lawson playing the character of Helen was such a good fit, and I thought she was really good. We have seen Bianca Lawson throughout the years. She played this role perfectly. And so this party is setting up a scenario where everybody's lies are about to be revealed and everybody's confusion is about to be cleared up really quickly because this is the moment everybody's been waiting for up to this point.
Nikki's here. Yeah, and Rita's here too.
So meanwhile, Nikki's coworker, Amy, has lured Nikki to this party too. Nikki didn't know she was showing up at the party. And this was set up by Evan, who wants to solidify his relationship with Nikki. So he hooked up with the coworker and said, hey, look, get her to this party.
It was supposed to be a surprise, but he has a ring.
And so Nikki realizes that she is at the party now with both Evan and his cousin, Quincy. Quincy, the one she has a thing for.
Amy, what have you done?
So then Evan comes in the room where he's in the room with Helen, and Evan tells Quincy, hey, look, both Rita and Nikki are there. Mind you, Evan has been sleeping with Rita because he has pretended to be Quincy, right? And plus Nikki, the woman who he feels like he loves, is there. So he's got to try to run some interference between the two of them.
Okay, but what I need to do, I need to go get Nikki and bring her back here to me, okay?
So then Nikki at the same time is realizing that both Quincy and Evan are there and that she's got to kind of figure out what she's going to do. And so then Quincy goes, sees Nikki, gets her and tells her, he was like, yeah, we should just go on ahead and get out of here, whatever. And she agrees.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
I was thinking we could bounce out.
But then Phil walks up. Phil walks up, is like, hey, you got the letter?
Have you got the letter? Oh,
Right.
Now, Phil wants a letter because between Quincy and Phil, who's been advising him on how to get rid of Rita, the gold-digging girlfriend who wants to get married, he said, we're going to write her a letter. So Phil is waiting for this letter that Quincy is supposed to have written, and this is why he walks up at this point. But then everybody eventually walks up.
Oh, okay, Nikki. See you met Quincy already.
You didn't tell him?
Tell me what?
So you got Phil and Rita and Nikki and Quincy and Evan and Helen all standing there looking at each other crazy because they all have these different relationships and are under these misimpressions, if you will, of what their relationship is with anybody in this group. So then they break the group up. The guys go off to do something else. And then the women are left there alone. You got Helen, Nikki, and Rita, and they're talking about their different roles. And so, you have Helen, who is like, I am Quincy's muse.
Hello, I'm Helen, Quincy's muse.
And then you got Nikki like, well, I'm Quincy's girlfriend.
Oh, I'm Nikki, Quincy's girlfriend.
And then Rita is like, I'm just sleeping with him.
I'm Rita. I just screw him.
So everybody is just, everybody is like in this moment feeling very uncomfortable and whatnot. And yet at the same time, kind of willing to compete for Quincy, right? And so then finally Quincy is like, look, I'm just going to come clean to Evan. And he's like telling him in the middle of the party, I've been seeing Nikki and I love her.
I wanted to let you know me and Nikki been seeing each other. My Nikki.
And here's the thing. You're at a party. This is like the trope of the party where the music is loud and you try to say something. They can't hear you over the music. And then you say it really loud and suddenly the music's not there and everybody hears you say it. That's what happens in this moment, right?
I've been seeing Nikki and I love her.
And so he's like, I've been seeing Nikki and I love her. And then, of course, Evan punches Quincy.
Oh.
This will remind you a lot of the scene in The Best Man when it becomes clear that Harper has been sleeping with the groom's girlfriend, right? Same actor punches this guy out for messing with his girl. So then Nikki comes and stands over Quincy while he's on the ground after being punched and is like, I met your muse and your little hoe.
Just met your muse and your little hoe.
And so she's mad. She gets off. She gets out. She leaves and burns off from the party. And then Evan goes to chase her because he's like, I love her. I want to be with her. Let me go.
It's not what you think. I think you were with Nikki. That's what I think.
And then Quincy tries to explain to Evan, and Evan is like, you don't do that to Blood. I believe you were with her, so he's mad.
You don't do that to Blood, all right? You don't do that to family. You know the rules.
He's like, you just don't do that to Blood. And then he pulls off and he leaves Quincy standing there.
No, go to hell, man. I'm gonna get it back. You stay away from it.
So Quincy has this huge mess that he's going to have to clean up, right? You guys know what's been going down on YouTube. Things are changing here, and we have moved to a more viewer-funded model here on YouTube so we can keep making these videos. And part of that is that we have rolled out a less expensive co-executive producer option. Typically, this is going to be $10 each, but right now we have a sale going on, so you can get 3 for $25. So that's you picking 3 movies, selecting them from our list of available movies for co-executive producer. You can go to the link in the description in order to take advantage of becoming a co-executive producer. And so next we see Rita telling Phil that she's having an affair with Quincy, which is really Evan. She thinks she's sleeping with Quincy. So as a means to manipulate him into proposing to her, this is why she's telling him this. So Quincy decides that he's going to maintain the status quo, and he seems to get back with his ex Helen because, Helen was like, slap me or love me, I don't care. Helen doesn't care because she wants that old thing back. She sees that he's got this higher profile and everything. And so, yeah, of course she is fine being with him. So then tensions are continuing to explode. And then Evan later decides, like, look, I want to marry Rita. Rita being the one he's been sleeping with under Quincy's name, so to speak, right? Instead of continuing to pursue Nikki. We find out the way that Rita and Evan, decided that they wanted to be together was after all of this happened, Philip had suffered a heart attack. And Rita finally learns that Evan had lied about being Quincy. And so instead of her being angry, Rita is like, well, I genuinely done fell in love with Evan. So she wants to be with him. He wants to be with her. So then they're going to get their happy ending. So in the end, Quincy realizes that Helen is like not the woman that he really wants to be with. He breaks things off with her for good after she orders him to take a dog who used to be her dog to the pound. And then he realizes the dog is going to get killed. So he brings all the dogs back from the pound. And of course, she doesn't like the dog. And so he's basically like, get out my house. And so he gets rid of her and he's like, I really, really want to be with Nikki. So then he finds out that Nikki is going to be taking a train to Portland and she's not there. So of course, you get this climactic moment in these movies where you got to chase a train or you got to go to the airport. But in this case, it's a train. So he goes to the train station trying to stop Nikki before she leaves. So Nikki is with one of her patients that she's going to Portland with. And he starts running after the train as it's pulling off from the station, yelling to confess his love, but she can't hear it. So at the same time, he bites through his skin as he chases the train. And this is a reference to their first date when Quincy tells her that you can't bite through your own skin or your own flesh due to self-preservation. So at that date, they conclude that if you love somebody else more than you love yourself, then you could indeed bite through your own skin. So basically what happens is he bites through his skin, then he hits like a partition or something. And Nikki sees all this happen while she's on the train as it's pulling off. She pulls the emergency stop and then hops off the train. And then she goes and he's basically like, baby, I love you. I want to be with you. And then Nikki accepts his feelings and together they just ride this train to Portland. He ain't got no ticket, I don't think, or no. Well, I guess he couldn't get out on the platform without a ticket. But anyway, he hops on this train. He's sitting there with her and her patient like, yeah, I'm going to Portland. So they're just going to, I guess, start a new life together. But at least we know that they got together in this moment. And now I'm like, okay, after they did all this foolishness, do you think the train is really just going to take off and just continue as normal after you have pulled an emergency stop? You can just get back on? Do you think they would just let you get on it? They're going to kick you off. All 3 of y'all would have been, you, the patient, and this man would have been kicked off that train. But anyway, so that is what happens in the movie in a nutshell, kind of the rundown of it. And I think that this is one of those, I had forgotten about this movie, honestly, until the movie was requested.
This dude had a slew. He did The Best Man, The Brothers, Who Can Play That Game? All like in a row.
Yeah. So that's just kind of, he was in
Breaking All the Rules.
Yeah. He was in these romantic comedies, and playing these roles for sure, but I have a couple questions that I think that we should explore about this film. So remember Rita and Evan, that, how they got together. and how they just seemed to be better suited than she was with Philip when she was trying to gold dig Philip. Philip had money, but she really wasn't interested. And she had even confessed that she grew up poor in Toledo, Ohio, and that she created this gold digger life for herself as a means of survival. And she said that she put this life together based on good looks and street savvy. And then she says that she doesn't love Philip, but women don't love men they can manipulate. That is her point. And so she seems very street smart and very much like, I know what I'm doing, but I'm trying to solidify the bag. I'm trying to secure the bag through a man and my good looks. And she was also saying how her looks were running out. Basically, I got about 7 more years so I can snag a man with this money so that I can live a good life and not be poor like I was when I grew up in Toledo. And I thought this was interesting because they certainly were better suited, her and Evan, than she was to be chasing Phil, who didn't want her, but yet had money. And I was just like, what about this idea, though, that the women who are like, hey, I'm just going to snag a rich man. I don't care about loving him. I just recognize what the role will be. I'm sure she and Phil would have had some kids. And you know what I mean?
Kevin Samuels will be proud.
But yeah, so that is one way to go at it, right? But of course, the film positions it like, of course you want love. And even in the end, Rita proved that she wanted love by being with Evan, somebody who she fell in love with. Well, and he was laying it down the way the movie said, So yeah. So the first question: do you think Rita and Evan lasted as a couple for long term?
No.
Why?
Because it was based on sex, and then she just wanted to be with them because of that sort of excitement. Because she was really cheating too.
And how much money did he have? You know what I'm saying? How much money did Evan have? Was Evan's money ever going to run out? Well,
if her time is running out, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, because if he wanted a younger model later, then it may not have lasted.
Well, for her, she just saying that she can't even have the money, and she wanted to be with somebody else.
And they were both shallow, because the whole thing that happened at the beginning of the movie where Nikki cut her hair. Right. Nikki had long hair and he was like, oh, it's Nikki's hair. She's so fine because of this hair, this hair, this hair. And he was just very superficial. And does that work? If you're superficial and you don't develop other reasons to be around people besides how they look, then that doesn't really bode well for longevity, I think. If you are not one of our members, you are missing out on over 100 exclusive members-only videos. Members get exclusive access to 100+ private archive of our videos, early access to some videos. Your name is listed as a contributor in videos, and even more stuff. And so if you're not a member, go ahead and join. There are 3 ways to do it. Axiom Amnesia is our preferred way. Just go to axiom.app. The links for all of these are in the description. You can join us on Patreon, as well as you can become a YouTube channel member. All of these ways, you do get access to that catalog and all of the benefits of membership. So we invite you to support the channel and just join through an option that works the best for you so you can unlock our full library of videos. Because as soon as they don't look how you want them to look, she gains a few pounds after you have kids or whatever it is, gets old. Right?
Get a tan and she's not white no more.
Yeah. Then do you still want to be with her? And if that's going to make you not want to be with the person, then yeah, I don't see longevity in the future. And then what about Nikki and Quincy as a couple? Because Nikki was kind of, okay, so she was a doctor, I think. Maybe she wasn't a doctor.
Did she go to the same school as Dr. Cheyenne?
I don't know. But, so Nikki worked, in healthcare and stuff, and Quincy was an artist. So that's 2 different types of people, in that sense, kind of what he was a writer. But yet they seem to click well. And even the types of conversations that they could have, the whole thing about, oh, tell me the strangest thing you know, oh, you can't bite through your skin. That is just a quirky, weird conversation that I think he wouldn't have had that conversation with Helen.
No. And
Helen was clear that, to me, Helen was a lot like Rita, except just maybe more bougie about it and probably was born into that, But Helen Helen wasn't interested, I don't think. And I don't think Helen really loved Quincy. She was just that same kind of counterpart, right? She just saw, oh, you've become successful. Now let me take a second look. Maybe I do need that old thing back, right? So, yeah, but like with the couples that are in there. But what I find interesting is that no matter what, nobody was left unhappy. I don't know. Was Phil unhappy? Phil probably wasn't unhappy because he got rid of Rita. And that was really what he wanted more than anything else.
I think they all kind of got what they wanted except for
Helen.
Yeah.
And even Helen, did she really? So
she wanted
it wasn't.
Her man.
Well, it wasn't a heartbreak though. She just was. Helen would seem like, hey, it's looking. The weather is nice and sunny over here. Let me go to where it's nice and sunny. Okay, it started raining over there. Let me go over here. You know, she didn't seem like she was particularly committed to anything. She just was like, I might as well. This is easy work to try to get back with the ex who now has had his star rise. Why not? You know?
Yeah, but that's what most people's happiness is predicated upon. It's not like no everlasting thing. It's what's temporary.
Yeah.
So she wasn't happy.
Yeah.
She got dumped.
What about this idea of Quincy, who became famous for relationship advice immediately after he failed at his own engagement? And, you know, the idea that like public expertise doesn't necessarily equal this emotional understanding, doesn't equal any kind of expertise. And I feel like I can see it both ways, right? So on the one hand, I think you can be competent at giving advice and have a very difficult time in your personal life because that's just the hypocrisy of it all, you know? And sometimes it's more difficult to parse things in your personal life versus in your professional life, you know?
Right, and it's about being receptive to it too, right? So you can have all the knowledge, all the strategy and everything and be able to dole it out, but then you still have to do it practically. And then you have to be able to, I guess, internalize those things as well, right? We all know that, hey, if you, you know, you don't do certain things, then you don't get certain outcomes, but we still go and we do those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we know, like, we'd be like, oh, this is going to hurt you long term. And what do? You go do the
still
thing.
Go do that thing.
You still go and pay for that trip you shouldn't have paid to go on, right? When you had these other financial obligations and, you know, just
and
as
some
an example.
things just defy logic. Like some things that are, so I guess I would look at it like this. Are you playing the short game or are you playing the long game? You know, just to make it binary and easy to kind of understand. You know, there are different decisions that you make when you play the short game versus when you play the long game. If you're playing the short game, and like by playing the short game, I mean like this, you just want the temporary pleasure of whatever it is. You just want something that's quick, easy to get, and temporary. So the short game might be from a male's perspective. I just want to go out and sleep with as many women as I can, and I don't really want to commit, and I just want to get, you know, sex from all these women. The short game from some of the, you know, women that you see today might be similar, right? They might say, I just want to get around and be with as many dudes as I can. Maybe for some of them, it's just about the sex because they're like, I have my own money. I don't need that from a man. And then maybe for others of them, they're like, I just want to get around and get as many free meals as paid for as I want, right?
Yeah.
I want to get as many guys to take me out as possible, not to the Olive Garden, you know, if you know, you know. But I, you know, and this might be what they're doing, right? But that's the short game. Then you have people who might be playing the long game. I want to get a wife, like a man might say, I want to get a wife. I want her to be married and I want us to have a family and all these things. And so I'm trying to build something that takes more than just talking slick overnight to build. The same thing from a woman's perspective. Maybe she says, I want a husband. In order to get a husband, I need to do whatever, you know, she feels like she needs to do. But the strategy and approach to playing the long game versus the short game is going to be different. And this is why when you see people who are doing things that seem to indicate that they're playing the short game, but yet they say they want the long game, it doesn't add up, right? And potentially these are red flags, or they just might be completely inexperienced and don't know how to get what they actually want, which I think is also the case a lot of times with really young people, right? But, you know, in this movie, you think about relationship advice. Think about all of these relationship gurus. And the one thing that I'm always interested in is, what is your circumstance? And we saw somebody recently. Who was that? She's a relationship one of them. And then the guy, was it Cam Newton? He was like, well, are you married? And you're trying to, you know, hook people up or whatever. And she said, well, what does being married have to do with the fact that I run? Oh, was it somebody G? I forgot her name.
Oh, Kendra
G, maybe.
Kendra.
But and I've seen her shows and stuff like that, and they're very fascinating to watch people come up with all their criteria for prospective mates. But yeah, so it was her, and she was saying, I've been in relationships. I'm not married right now. I'm single right now, but
I can read.
But what does this have to do with the fact that I have a show that helps people connect with one another?
That too.
And I agreed with her argument in that moment. Now, if her show was about, let me show you how to get married and stay married, to be happily married for 30 years, and there's nothing in your background that says that you've done that or know how to do that or know how to walk people through doing that, then I got questions, right?
Right. But it's the same as like Cam Newton over there giving advice and try to, dole out his expertise on relationships, and we see what.
Well, everybody thinks their opinion is valid, and they're not. Like it's a show and prove thing, And I'll say this: I'm glad that for whatever reason, because it wasn't like somebody sat down and told me this one day, but early on in my life as a young person, I figured out that I should follow the advice of people who either had what I wanted to get, were doing what I wanted to do, or were where I was trying to go. Not people who sitting right next to me telling me and got a million ways, to get that thing and do that thing, but you sitting next to me right here. I want to know from that. And that doesn't mean that the person who is where I want to go, that's the only way. But what I'm saying is that certainly is at least a tried and true way for them. If I look at you and I come in a place, and I say, oh, I'm working at let's say I'm a secretary, and I see somebody else who has become a legal assistant. And I say, well, how do I do that? You make more than me. I want to make what you make. And then they tell me, then I'm following that advice. Now, should I listen to the other secretary who is like, she might make more, but you're talking off the top of your head, and more than likely than not speaking from firsthand advice or experience. You're just speculating, just like I could speculate. And what do I need advice that's based on speculation for when I could actually talk to somebody who knows? So I'm always going to be an advocate of using your resources. If you want to know how to stay married for 50 years, then go talk to somebody who did it.
There are some people who I believe are just more observant. So they observe a lot, and then they can tell you about those things because they are good at pattern recognition too.
Which is why I said, or people who have a proven record. Like, in other words, maybe your dream is not to be a man who's married with 10 kids, but maybe how to get people to that point because of what you just said, right? Your ability to recognize patterns, you see what people do, and then you put that together. Then I would say that may well be true.
But we can't assess everybody because we don't know if they are that. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you're saying. And I guess if you know a person well enough, you have an idea for. So like the pattern recognition isn't just in one area, right? So like those few people who you might know who are really good at that and just can look at a thing and kind of figure out what's going on there, then those people, I would value their opinion just, generally more than the average person who doesn't have that ability. But I think you can kind of identify, you know what I'm saying? Like there are people who we know, who we talk to, that we realize are these kinds of people.
But I would have to know them more.
Yeah,
right?
you would. And you'd have to be smart enough yourself to recognize it. And we know that can be troublesome sometimes. So there's all of that. But I would just say like a rule of thumb, because that's more of a gray area. But a rule of thumb, it's just like somebody who has done a thing. It's easy work to talk to somebody and say, how did you do what you did?
But see, a lot of times people don't know
how they did
the thing. But then a lot of people go to that person, and that person is misguiding them. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is sometimes you have happenstance, you have the luck, and then you have the, you know what I'm saying? You have just doing the thing, right? That just happens to be successful, but they can't confer the knowledge and the strategy that it took to get there.
Want us to break down the movie of your choice? You choose the film and we do the analysis, and you're credited as the executive producer, just like Tracy M did with this video. The link to grab one is in the description, and our deep dive on demand is just $75. Well, and in the end, what I think that everybody is searching for, especially with any kind of guru, self-help, relationship, what the people are searching for is happiness. Happiness through one of these things. They think they're going to find it in the marriage. They're going to find it in having kids. They're going to find it in having more money. And yeah.
Yeah, so when I'm listening to people and watching interviews and stuff, I hate the what advice would you give to whatever. All you got to do is lay out what happened. Don't give me any assessments of nothing. And because of this and that, just lay out what happened. And then I'm going to put the stuff together.
Because you can.
You know what I'm saying?
But to the people who can't
what would you do
hear the story, then, and that's a really good observation, actually, because so many people who have accomplished some amazing things cannot break down how they did it. They cannot. And in some cases, maybe the more savvy of them don't actually want to tell you, or there are things about it they don't want to admit. But I think in a lot of cases, they simply can't break down how it is. So then you see them giving a lot more credit to themselves than perhaps to the luck or to the impact other people and opportunities had on their on their success, right? Especially like people who, let's just say artists or people in the music industry or something like that. They're like, I did all of my practice. I did all of this stuff and that. But at the end of the day, somebody else did those same things and didn't get where they got because they didn't have that opportunity. They didn't get that opportunity because their cousin didn't work for so-and-so who worked for such and such, or they didn't have this chance meeting with that person.
They were in a smaller town and you was in New York.
Right. So, so there's that piece of it. But I think is just the most basic things. If you're the most basic person in the world and you're like, hey, I'm of even lower than average intelligence, all you have to do is look at people who are where you want to go and don't necessarily ask them how they did it. That may not be the question because people get into all that other extras like what Heit was saying. What you do is you say, oh, I see that you're insert whatever it is. I see that you're a great swimmer. How many, when did you start? How many times a week do you practice? You ask them things with not these open-ended answers, very specific things. And then you start looking and putting together what was likely their process, right? And then and then you don't have to filter out the other stuff. So like to transfer that to relationships, you see somebody married for 50 years and you're like, if you ask those questions, how did y'all meet?
Yeah.
How did you
Usually it's like, how do you stay together for 50 years?
Which is the wrong answer. Is the wrong answer. The wrong question to ask, right? Is how did y'all do it? Because they may not be able to tell you. But if you find out what the story is and you ain't got to be brilliant. You find out the story and then you can kind of put two and two together. And a lot of times if you just mimic that, you can at least get pretty doggone close. You can get in the ballpark or where they are. It doesn't guarantee you'll be where they are.
Right. And that's what we do with these movies. We look at what happened and then we come up with sort of these explanations for what happened. And then that sort of process can be applied to real life.
Yeah. So I always think about that, when we are looking at this, but this whole relationship guru thing is crazy. And I think people give people so much credit for knowing so many things. But then on the flip side, we're at a time where all these individuals think they know more than they do too. Yeah. So I don't know how to be in a world where everybody's an expert. You can't tell anybody or show anybody anything. It's to the point now where I don't even try, honestly.
Everybody's an expert except for the thing that they do most of the time. You know what I'm saying? Like the people, let's say I'm going to tell you all about this and that and, the shape of the earth and all of this, right? I'm going to tell you about vaccines and this, but you work at Kohl's 40 hours a week. You know about retail, right? And maybe custom, you know what I'm saying? You have these expertise. They completely ignore that stuff. Like it's invaluable. Right.
Well, because nobody cares about, the observations of the buying behaviors of middle-aged women at Kohl's shopping for their kids. But actually they do. And this is part of how you find your actual superpower or your skill set. Instead of trying to be out there being exactly what you see other people being and like, oh, yeah, I'm going to mimic that. I'm going to go out here. Oh, they do that, so I can do that. And you don't even know what it took for them to be able to do it. You just all you got to do is, right? But in the reality, like in the Kohl's example, you know a lot of things. But the way that I cut out on that is I just get to know people. I know what you do all day because I talk to people and, I also don't interact with a ton of people. So the people I know fairly well, right?
And it's like, okay, you go out and you party every weekend. You can tell me about the club scene in Charlotte.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the happenings and the weather on the weekends. And you have an expertise that you can figure out that nobody else online is doing and talking about if you want to be somebody who gets attention online.
Right. And when you fish, I know that you go out and you fish every week, couple times a week you go fish. Then I know that you're the person to ask. I was thinking about your brother who was fishing all the time. And I asked him one day, I said, well, why can't we just use goldfish? Right. Because we were talking about, either catching our own bait or that. I was like, why won't goldfish work as bait? And because they were cheaper than the bait we were buying. I was like, well, why can't you just use goldfish? I mean, and he was like, goldfish are not going to work. He didn't have an answer as to why in that moment, because I don't think I pursued asking him why. He was just like, no, you can't. He was like, you ain't going to be able to use goldfish. And I'm like, okay. But we wound up actually, did we test the goldfish? I feel like we did.
I think we got put some goldfish in some lake somewhere.
And it didn't work.
Goldfish probably big.
Oh yeah, I know, a big old giant one. But anyway, it didn't work just like he said. But he had been doing, this is something he has a lot of experience at. But at the end, he was the one I went to. I didn't turn to Heit because we were both kind of learning at the same time. Even though you knew more than me, I wasn't like, hey, Heit, what about goldfish? We go ask the person with the deep knowledge or at least the experience doing that thing. And I do that for everything. So when we when we say go to the comments, because we know some of y'all out there have had this experience or who do this thing, that's why I'm asking you. Because I the heck don't know. And I don't know everything, but I know y'all do.
The thing is, too, that everyone has relationships, so everyone thinks that they're experts on relationships just for the fact. So they try to confer that their experience to all relationships when you have this basically a niche or this subcategory of relationships in which you are an expert.
Right. And the first thing you have to decide on anything is what it is. What is the goal? And relationships or anything else. What is the goal? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
If it's, you just want to sleep with people, then you do things that are going to get that result. If your goal is that I want to get married, then you do things that elicit that result.
Yeah. So Quincy, he got broken up with, and then he's like, I'm going to write the book on breaking up.
On how to break up with people, because I didn't like what it felt like when somebody quote unquote broke up with me wrong.
And what it seemed like is on this one experience too. Right. So in this case, I'm gonna need a whole line of you breaking up, or probably breaking up with people, or probably getting broken up with, right? Mm-hmm. And being able to assess it and it going the right way too.
And recognizing that in the end, there is still a common denominator, which is you. So even if you had 10 experiences, you could say, okay, these were the commonalities, but I know that I'm limited because it's an N of one. Right. Like I'm the only person.
And the goal, if it's how to break up with somebody, what is the end goal? Do you want them to feel bad? Do you want to feel good? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Do you want to spare their feelings? Do you want to make it sting? It's whatever, you have to put that ending part on that too. So in a lot of the times with the podcast and everything, it's just this general thing of what relationships would be, and it should be the same thing for every single person across the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
then people repeating a bunch of stuff that's just so annoying. You gotta have communication. Well, what exactly does that mean?
And it should be that in a lot of times we want to make the world the way we want to see it, so it should be morality wrapped into it, right? If I think something is the moral way that things should be, which is, kind of fuzzy, you know what I'm saying, or sus, then those are the things that you preach, but you make it clear that that is why you're saying the things that you're saying, right? Not just that, women are like this, so men should do this, but why are you trying to build a certain world? Do you think it's the moral thing? Do you think one is right and one is wrong? What's the whole point? So all these conversations are being had, and it's just all over the place, and no one is looking at what their own goals are when they're listening, and what are the goals or the objectives of the people who saying these things.
Right. So, yeah, but again, what is the goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Like, that's the first to doing anything, to solve it. You know, it doesn't matter if you're like, hey, I'm going out today. Well, what is the goal? What are you trying to do? Are you washing clothes? Are you going to party? Are you trying to get groceries? Okay, what's the goal of the groceries? Saving money, getting quality, getting the best value.
Exactly.
You know, like
Tell me what to buy. What do you want?
This is what's happening, and this is the negotiation with every single thing that I do. Some of you probably would call it overthinking.
Bruh.
I don't think there's a thing as such as overthinking. I think there's thinking, and then there's, you know, less thinking. I mean, you know, but the notion of overthinking is not one that is part of my vocabulary, and certainly not part of the way I assess myself and the way I view things. But this, as a romantic comedy, though, Breaking All the Rules, like I said, I had kind of forgotten about this movie, but it just was one of those kind of cute, funny, feel-good movies that, you know, is from that time period.
I forgot all these movies in the early 2000s that are black rom-coms, basically.
Yes. And what you need to do, too, is make sure you go to our posts tab, you know, on any of our channels, because we post different questions about, you know, the characters and stuff like that. And also we're actively letting you guys vote on, like, hey, which one of these movies do you want to see next? So make sure you're participating in the voting and stuff that we put out there for that. And I mean, obviously, if it's just on the tab, you don't, you know, it's free. But yeah, you should definitely participate in that, so we get an idea of like what you want to see next, so that we can, you know, move those things that you might want, that groups of people want to see more, up toward the top, and then the stuff people want to see less, you know, can be things that we still can put out, but like maybe the members get it, you know, other stuff like that, or, you know, it might be more delayed. So, but this was just a really cute movie, and I'm happy that we had the chance to cover it and revisit it. And it makes, now, let me just say one last thing about Jamie Foxx. If you've been missing your YouTube notifications for our videos, we have fixed this. Go ahead to the description, subscribe to our mailing list. The link is there, and you're going to get emails that tell you all of the videos that we've released across all of our channels, so you never miss another video. All right, so I remember when I first was introduced to Jamie Foxx, just like a lot of you guys, was probably on In Living Color. And I never really viewed Jamie Foxx as like the kind of sex symbol, ideal leading man type, the way that maybe even Morris Chestnut or Denzel Washington kind of was. Jamie Foxx was always very high comedy in that way, but somebody who pulled it off was maybe like Will Smith, right? We saw him first in more of these comedic roles, but then he also could play the more dramatic roles and you know, in rom-coms as well, and we saw him do that well. But I never felt like Jamie Foxx had the versatility in that way. But I thought he was good at character, like in Ray, amazing. You know, he's an amazing artist in all of these other ways. But it's interesting that like he's a lead in this. He's not the friend. Ordinarily, I would have expected the film to be Morris Chestnut as Quincy.
Oh, I guess a rom-com. Yeah.
Yes, a rom-com, and Jamie Foxx as the supporting character.
Yeah.
But
so before Jamie Foxx really popped off, it was so annoying. There was this dude in college. He was a Jamie Foxx music fan, and he had that first album, and he used to always just talk about Jamie Foxx and sing it. And like, bro, come on, that's cool and all to know that he's a singer and stuff, but he wasn't a singer at the time. You know what I'm saying?
You knew him through his comedy and art
acting.
in other ways.
Yeah, like, bro. And it's so amazing. And then once he, you know, blew up, I was like, bro, this dude been talking about Jamie Foxx for years.
His singing ability. But you know, when I heard Jamie, and like a lot of you may have first heard him sing like in his stand-ups where, and I don't know, I think these might have even been outtakes, you know, where he was imitating Luther and playing the piano while he's saying, I always thought it was amazing.
On Jamie Foxx show, but it's just like that happened back in the day. These actors were doing everything.
Yes.
So you just didn't see them like that. Oh, they can sing. Cool. Now you go back to being.
Everybody could sing. Back in the day, you had to be kind of like the triple threat. You had to be able to act believably. You had to be able to sing. You had to look good. In a lot of cases, you had to be able to dance too.
Yeah.
You know, because if you think about Broadway and live performances, they often included music where you had to be able to carry that off and sing. You had to be able to act on stage and maybe even dance, because that is also kind of wrapped up into the live performances. So, you know, so now when you get people who are these one-dimensional actors. Like if you're one-dimensional actor, like you have to be just amazing, right? Like I don't know, does Denzel Washington really sing? Like do we ever really see him sing? We've seen him play musicians, but I don't think he really sings like that,
probably
right?
do,
but
he's from that time.
but maybe he can. But he's such an amazing actor that he has that skill set to be able to say, this is all I do. It's kind of like somebody with a voice like Whitney Houston. Yeah, you don't have to play the piano. She didn't play instruments. She didn't write songs.
Yeah.
You know, she sung and she did like, you know, the vocal melodies and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But she didn't do that. She didn't have to because that her talent was that way. But then you have other people who might even be considered more generalists in entertainment. I'm a little funny. I can sing a little. I can do, you know. Anytime
these artists and stuff came out like that who were actors, you know, you just kind of overlook it. You know, like Jasmine Guy, Raven Simone, Tatiana Ali and them. You know what I'm saying? They would put stuff out.
Keke Palmer even more recently, right? Keke Palmer I just saw a video of her singing the other day.
I guess
and she got a podcast and she's an actor.
They do everything. But back in the 90s and 80s, it was just kind of like, you know, and even Eddie Murphy as a male.
Yeah,
you know,
can sing.
Yeah, but you just be like, oh, he made a song. You wouldn't just consider him. I think because the star was in acting more too.
Yeah.
That, you know, this music is just a little side thing that they do.
So here's my theory also, right? My theory on especially people who do, you know, impressions, the comedians who do impressions, they almost always can sing. And I think that there is a skill set that is required for people who do impressions, and you might find them as voice actors and other things, who there's something about the ability to listen to and imitate a sound with your actual voice, right? That lends itself to those people usually can sing. They can usually do accents very well. They can, you know, and they're funny, but this is why they sound like Denzel when they imitate him. And then other people try it and they just don't. Like there's just a common skill. And so when you find out that Cedric the Entertainer has a nice sounding voice, or Jamie Foxx, or Eddie Murphy, and then you also understand their ability to do impressions and stuff like these, the skill set required for these, in my theory anyway, and I'm sure somebody's written a dissertation or something on it somewhere, that it's related. It just seems related anyway, but I think it's definitely a related skill set. And it's not surprising how many of the people who are comedians can actually sing, and even people who are rappers, plenty of them can sing too. Now plenty of them can't, and then we got into the era we're in where, you know, they're singing it, I don't like how it sounds, and it's not supposed to be a joke. But yeah, I mean, but back in the day, you know, Queen Latifah, she could sing. You have plenty of I mean, even Nicki Minaj can sing, right? But Nicki Minaj can do amazing accents.
Now she's singing on Trump balls.
Bruh, I think she's turned on him recently. I don't know. I haven't seen the latest on her. But at any rate, you know, these are all the things and ruminations that Breaking All the Rules made us think of. But this is a really cute rom-com. And for those of you who haven't seen it in a while, this is your cue to go watch Breaking All the Rules. It's from 2004. I'm sure you can find it on streaming and I don't know, Tubi or someplace else too. But yeah, a great movie. And I want to go back and I want to thank Tracy M for being the executive producer. Y'all go to the comments and thank Tracy so much.
If you made it this far, type delegate in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end. And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And also be sure to visit axiom.app where you'll find all of our recent videos in one place with links to them back on YouTube so that you can watch them here.